Championship last year. Got his maiden victory, became the first ever Chinese driver to win in the Formula Renault Eurocup earlier on this season at Pau. And he's with the Joseph Kaufmann racing team, who are looking for their third consecutive Drivers' Championship title. The German-based team, Joseph and his son Lars Kaufmann running the team, third in the rookie standings last year. And before Formula Renault, a couple of years ago in 2016, Ifier was competing, as many of these drivers have in fact, in the French Formula 4 Championship, in which he was a 14-time race winner. Prior to that, he had no other car racing experience and had come through the Chinese karting championships, which had been a multiple champion. So I've had 7 different winners so far this year from 12 races. From the races so far, we've had 11 drivers on the podium. We've had nearly 20 drivers in at the points so far this season as well. And we've had 30 different drivers competing in the championship, most of them on a regular basis, some coming and going. Out to the championship this weekend is Richard for sure, but it's positive news for Richard, the Dutch driver, because he's moved on to GP3. He's in his second weekend racing in GP3 this weekend. And earlier on today, the good news that he had a good race to go from wet conditions at Monza, 15th through to 8th place, which has given him pole position for the reverse grid race tomorrow. So we wish Richard, who has already had a points scoring finish in his first weekend in GP3, a very successful future. But we've got another very talented driver coming into the fray, because in the MP Motorsport squad, the Dutch team driving car 33 this weekend, it's welcome to the championship to Freek Stotthurst, the Dutch driver, 21-year-old from Amsterdam, who has barely any kart racing experience. He's got a very different background because he has come up through sim racing. So he's done some racing this year, but he was competing in 2017 in one of the sim racing championships that were backed by McLaren, in fact, and made a name for himself in that. He didn't win it, but he came very close to winning it, and Stotthurst finishing in second place to that, then transferring those skills very quickly to the McLaren Formula 1 simulator, and now coming racing. So as I say, he's 21 years of age. He's got a bit of catching up to do, because most of these drivers have been racing since karting, since they were 7 or 8 years of age. But he's been very impressive so far. He made his car racing debut at the start of the season in the SMP Formula 4 Championship, which competes in generally Russia and Finland are the countries they compete in. And on his first weekend, in fact he only had one weekend in that, he finished 3rd, 5th and 3rd, so 3rd on his debut. Got the lap record in the final race of the weekend as well. That was at the Smolensk swing, and doing a fantastic job. So it's the driver who has come up through the world's fastest game of competition run by McLaren. Incidentally, the driver that won that, another Dutchman, Rudy van Buren, is now an official McLaren Formula 1 sim driver, which is now a thing these days, sim driving, because the level of accuracy on those simulators is absolutely incredible. Because a lot of these drivers use sims to get used to circuits when they are trying to prepare for a race weekend. So Christian Lundgaard, the 17-year-old Dane, the rookie driver on pole position. There in the background, the yellow and black Renault Sport car, and there is Ifier, the current championship leader. He got that record at Monza, got the first ever pole position for a Chinese driver. Then following a session, he got the first ever win for a Chinese driver with his maiden victory. So Christian Lundgaard, there he is on pole position, who won the Formula 4 Northern European Zone Championship and the Spanish Formula 4 Championship last year, and has also had a bit of a foray into GP3 this year. He raced a few months ago at the Castellet with MP Motorsport's team that ran him, the Dutch team, Sander Dorsman's team, and finished just outside the points. Victor Martins is going to be up there for this championship fight as well. There he is, finished second in the French Formula 4 Championship last year. He has looked very good indeed. Just turned 17 a couple of months ago. And Lorenzo Colombo, who has been super talented all year long and has been, again, one of the form drivers in recent races. He's come up through the Italian Formula 4 Championship, in which he finished 3rd last year. A bit of German Formula 4 racing last year as well. Prior to that, competing in karts. And Logan Sargent there, who is up there in this championship fight, 5th in the standings, 3rd in the British Formula 4 Championship last year. All support bill to the British Touring Car Championship. Took a couple of wins, was with the Carlin team, Trevor Carlin's all-conquering single-seater team, Also finished as runner-up in the UAE Formula 4 Championship, and in 2015 was the world karting champion, the first American to win that title since way back in 1978. Jean Milesi has struggled to score points since his super weekend at Monaco, where he took a race victory, finished in second. The weekend before that at Silverstone, he'd been a race winner as well, so he had a real sweet spot for a couple of weekends. But he, unfortunately, has barely scored any points since then. He's been struggling, and Jean Milesi will be looking after the break to get back on terms with the front runners in the championship. There's absolutely no reason why not. It's been a quick driver, and Axel Mathius, well, he'll be looking to score good points here after a superb, as I say, qualifying session. Best of the year for him and the team. He's 19 years of age, comes from Mexico, second season in this championship. And prior to that was racing in South America, former Pan Am single-seater champion with 3 wins in 2016. Alexander Smolyar, one of the Russian drivers who's been capable of running at the front of the field this year as well, could be one to watch, qualifying in the top 10 this weekend. And he's a driver that's been capable of top 6, so he's 9th on the grid. And Oscar Piastri, who got his maiden podium finish at Spa last time out, with a 3rd place finish. He actually led the race for a little while as well. He's there to complete the top 10 as the grid is now cleared. So here at the Hungaroring, well, at Spa, you may remember the facts and figures bore out the fact that pole position generally wasn't that good for you, because you just drafted, everybody else took the draft from you, and that was the case for Lorenzo Colombo, dropped from 1st to 6th in the first race there. But here, pole position is a definite advantage. It is not the easiest circuit in the world to overtake. On Max Futrell, speaking to him this morning, said it's a difficult circuit in which to follow other cars as well. You get a lot of turbulence around here, a lot of dirty air as they call it. But he's fairly satisfied with 3rd on the grid. It's Frank Bird, who was going really well in the test sessions yesterday. He was right up there, probably the best Friday he's had so far, the British driver, in his 2nd season of the championship, and was in the top 6 in one of the test sessions yesterday, but hasn't gone quite so well for him in the qualifying, although he's pretty high up in on the 6th row of the grid. So he'll be pretty pleased, I think, with how it's gone. Has been starting to consistently pick up some points and run near the front over the last few meetings. So Frank Bird, from a Ginetta Junior driver, coming up into single seaters a few years ago. Let's see how he can get on. But this circuit, 4.38 kilometres long, and in terms of pole positions, well, not all the drivers come from, all the winners come from pole position here. 59% of the winners have come from pole position. That means that 41% of the drivers haven't come from pole position, so it's not the be-all and end-all. It isn't the easiest circuit in the world to overtake on, but it is possible. And what history tells us is that over the course of the weekend, we're likely going to get 2 different race winners, because, as I say, the last driver to win both races on the 2-race weekend here was Daniel Ricciardo, when he finished 2nd in the championship back in 2008. The current, but not for much longer, Red Bull Formula 1 driver, as he looks for pastures new next season. We saw the build-up to this as well. His countryman Alex Peroni, who was the other race winner at Monaco. Poor old Alex caught up with him this morning, and he was looking a bit fed up with life, really, because they just couldn't get the car working in qualifying. So he's not a million miles away in terms of pace, but he's a bit further down the grid than he'd like to be. He's on the 6th row of the grid as well, just alongside Frank Bird. Alex starts 11th, 12th on the grid for Frank Bird. But his race pace generally has been a bit better than his qualifying pace. So Alex, who's the first driver to win in the Formula Renault Eurocup since Daniel Ricciardo, might be one to watch coming through the field. There, that is your championship leader, Yiffy. 30 minutes of racing. It will be 5 minutes longer than the races we had prior to 2018. And what could be a landmark year for the championship, because the landscape of single-seater racing internationally is very much changing next year, with Formula 3 International Championship moving on to the Grand Prix package, and therefore other Formula 3 championships changing. And it could well be that this, in its current guise, is the last season of the Formula Renault Eurocup as it changes. Renault still very much looking to be involved next year, but it could move to a Formula 3 regional championship powered by Formula Renault engines. So a very exciting prospect. These cars could still be used in the NEC Championship, which are here this weekend as well. So several drivers, as we had at Spa, who only compete in the NEC Championship, the Northern European Cup, exactly the same cars as we use in the Eurocup. They've joined the grid here as well, 4 of them, including the current leader of the Formula Renault Eurocup in the NEC Championship, which is Phil Hill, the German driver, ahead of Dared Gattas. Gabriel Gandulia, the Argentinian driver, 3rd in those standings, is also here this weekend. As you see, confirmation of the lineup for this race on screen. So, here at the Hungaroring, this circuit, which was first built and opened back in 1986, built really purely for the purposes of hosting a Grand Prix. They originally wanted to build a circuit in the city centre in Nepliget, which is the biggest park in Budapest, which is about a 25-minute, 30-minute drive away from where we are. So it was going to be almost a street circuit, a Monaco-style street circuit, but in the end the government decided to build a brand new circuit here with great access, very close to Budapest, and it was built incredibly quickly. It was built in just 8 months, faster than any other Formula 1 circuit at the time. Budapest, a beautiful city. I get the chance to come here, the River Danube running through the middle of it, 2 parts to it, Buda and Pest, and some incredible architecture. It's got more thermal springs than any other capital city of the world. It's got something like 70 million litres of thermal water rising to the surface each and every day, so a lot of thermal baths and spas. Some great places to visit as well. The Parliament building is incredible. It's the 3rd largest in the world, covering an area of something like 18,000 square metres. And it's got nearly 700 rooms, so fabulous city, fabulous venue, and hopefully some fantastic racing to look forward to as they line up then at the front of the grid. Christian Landgaard in the number 31 car on pole position, the MP Motorsport team running here. Joseph Kaufmann running number 16, if he alongside him. They're the top 2 in the championship. Max Futrell saying to me this morning that they struggled to get the car working in really hot conditions. It was really hot at Spa, over 35 degrees all weekend long, and he struggled a bit there and relatively struggled in qualifying this morning. He's 3rd on the grid though, he's fairly happy with that, but the gap that Christian Landgaard had was over 3.5 tenths of a second. It's really the biggest gap we've had in qualifying this year from 1st to 2nd. Speaking to Christian this morning, he reckoned he could have gone even a bit quicker, maybe been half a second quicker. Red lights build up then. Chris Hartley alongside the track here as we get the race underway, and if he gets a terrific start, he's going to get alongside and in front of Christian Landgaard. So the champion moves into the lead of the race, the championship leader moving ahead of his nearest rival Christian Landgaard, who might come under fire here from Victor Martins, and Victor looking at the inside, hanging around the outside with the red mirrors is Landgaard. You've got Max Futrell with the green wing mirrors on these 3 yellow and black Renault Sport Academy backed cars, all fighting for 2nd position at the moment. Landgaard there at the moment though, holding on to the position, fending off the attentions of both Victor Martins and Max Futrell as they make their way now for the first time down through turns 2 and 3, downhill section through here, and then onto the back straight. Turn 4 is an incredibly quick turn. They take it at over 157 kilometres an hour, and it's a blind entry into the corner, the left-hander. You've got to use the curbs to sight it through the right-hander in 3rd gear at turn 5 they now go. Everybody jostling for position there in the Red Bull liveried car is Neil Verhagen, who's been a front runner this year. Got his maiden podium at this circuit 12 months ago, and he's just behind Alex Peroni as they fight to break into the top 10, both having had a disappointing qualifying session this morning. There is the number 3 machine at the head of this group of cars, Jean Milesi, who qualified on the 4th row of the grid, just behind him. And pushing on hard. In fact, just in front of him was Lorenzo Colombo. So Lorenzo holding him off. And here we go, side by side into the turn. Oscar Piastri right behind him. And you got the 22 car just on the tail as well. Alexander Smoliar trying to find his way through the white, blue and red car. In turn, Thomas Maxwell, who took a gamble on setup overnight. It didn't work. He struggled in qualifying. He's there in the green and white car, the Australian, who's been one of the regular front runners in the top 10 this year, and he tries to find a way through. Frank Bird with the green wing mirrors, the red and black car. He's up there, number 24 just behind as well, as they complete already the first lap of the race. 2 minutes done. Frank Bird having a look down the inside of the run into turn 1. It's a downhill run into that turn. Can't really see it on the TV pictures, but once they go into the bridge, the footbridge over the start line, it's quite a steep drop. He drops even more down through turns 2 into turn 3. Maxwell having a look to try and find a way through. This is for the final points position. Smoliar at the head of that group in 10th place after Rouget, who got his best result of the season, first points of the season at Spa, the 4th place in the 4th of the yellow and black Renault Sport cars, get through and squeezes past as they run onto the back straight. So he gains a spot there. All 28 cars surviving the first lap of the race as they went through. Villiers with an 0.8 of a second advantage over Christian Lundgaard in 2nd, Futrell in 3rd place. Martins in 4th, Logan Sargent's moved up to 5th, Lorenzo Colombo in 6th. We get a replay of the start then. Terrific start off the line for Villiers. Lundgaard just seemed to bog down a bit and then was straight away on the defensive here from Victor Martins. You had Max Futrell as they came into the turn trying to find a way past as well. Logan Sargent was getting in the mix also as he tried the outside line. There were lockups. Christian Lundgaard was a bit scrappy, went off the road and finally was able to close the door through the next turn. There was a lockup there as well from the 24 car of Frank Bird, but he survives. So there is the picture at the front of the field, the top 4 coming through. Then Sargent in 5th, Lorenzo Colombo in 6th place, the Italian driver looking for his first race victory. Had some bad luck this year. Was penalised from a race win at the Red Bull Ring for a full start. Time added on at the end of the race, so can he get his first win this weekend? Might be tough in this race, but they've got another qualifying system to come tomorrow for race 2. The groups were running different orders. Somebody running wide in the background there as they come out of the final turn, make their way through. Turn 14, but everybody survives so far. Raoul Guzman in the blue and white car just there in the foreground trying to find his way through. He's currently down in 19th place, just behind Sami Taufik, the Moroccan driver, as Oscar Piastri in the red, white, blue Arden car trying to find a position here, and he's going to squeeze up the inside and get through. Nice move that from Oscar to get ahead of Charles Milesi. That puts him up to 8th place. So a nice move from Oscar, who looked really, really strong last time out at Spa, and has had some good performances, but some frustrating weekends so far in his first season. It's his first podium, as I say, at Spa, his first podium for a little while since Formula 4 in Britain, and he will look to push on, see how high up the championship he can get in the remaining 4 events of the season. That's on the Tuesday, by the way. Holding station, he's there in 7th place, so having a terrific run here. All of his teammates not too far back, and just outside the top 10 is Martinez, looking to try and get into that top 10 if he possibly can. So if he has just set the fastest first sector, the fastest second sector of the lap, the race leader went from 0.8 of a second clear to 1.1 seconds clear at the end of that first lap of the race. Max Futrell and Christian Lundgaard, the gap between them is 0.6 of a second. Victor Martins is 0.8 of a second back in 4th place. And then Sargent is about a second behind them, but with right on his tail Lorenzo Colombo. They run in 5th and 6th positions as they complete another lap. And the safety car is being deployed. And it's because I'm afraid we lost Thomas Neubauer, the French driver there, in the Tech 1 car with the rear wing and the left side of the suspension looking rather second-hand, has gone off the road. And that's a real shame, because this is Thomas, he's come back this weekend. He has missed the last couple of weekends with an injured foot. He was at the Red Bull Ring and took part in the test sessions and qualifying at the start of the weekend, but he never raced because of this foot injury that he had. He was hobbling around and he had to miss the next weekend because it was only a short gap before they went to Spa. They were racing on the Friday and Saturday there. He didn't have time to recover, so he's missed the last couple of rounds of the championship, and he is out of this one already. As the teammate to Frank Bird, the Tech 1 racing team, the French team, by brother and sister Simon and Sarah Abadi. Have had good success here. French teams and French drivers seem to have a really good record here over the last few seasons in the championship. I think it'll be a fairly brief safety car. It's going to be hugely frustrating this for Villiers, because he built up a nice 1.3 second lead, and that's going to evaporate to almost nothing now with Christian Lundgaard. Of course, his big rival for the championship will now have a second bite of the cherry, having had not a great start to the race as the safety car gets ready to pick them up. That's come out of the pit lane. He's now got another chance to do something about this. Max Futrell in 3rd place might not quite have the race pace here, he was saying, but slightly damage limitation in the super hot conditions. But he's going to keep fighting till the end here. Victor Martins in 4th place, still very much in the championship fight as well. So the only change in the top 10 before that safety car came out was that move from Oscar Piastri to get ahead of Charles Milesi for 8th place. So it's Yves from Christian Lundgaard, Max Futrell, Victor Martins 4th, Logan Sargent 5th, Lorenzo Colombo in 6th, and Mathieu's looking for his best result so far in the Formula Renault Eurocup in 7th, Oscar Piastri in 8th, Charles Milesi in 9th, and Alexander Smolyar is still in 10th place, but only just ahead of Thomas Maxwell, the Australian, and the winner of last year's French Formula 4 Championship, Arthur Rougier, who was right behind him as well. So if, and it's a big if, because there's 22.5 minutes still to go in this race, it stays like this, if EA would increase his championship advantage from 10 points to 17, 25 for a win versus 18 points for second place for Christian Lundgaard, who is just behind him. The RHGP squad, for all their successes, and they're the most winning team so far this year, with 8 race wins between their drivers, have had podiums here. They were on the podium with their drivers last year, but they haven't won a race at this circuit, so it's maybe a slight, even though they've gone well here, maybe a slight bogey circuit in terms of trying to pick up a race win here. Joseph Cameron Racing and MP Motorsport also taking their drivers to race wins this season. Mentioned the fact that Daniel Ricciardo was the last driver to win 2 out of 2 races here at the Hungaroring 10 years ago now. It's a couple of years since any driver has won 2 races on a 2-race weekend at all, anywhere, and that was Lando Norris, frontrunner of the Formula 2 Championship this year, who won 2 races at Aragon. That was actually a 3-race weekend back in 2016. The last driver, Tom Driver, won both races in a 2-race weekend was Nick de Vries, who won both races at Paul Ricard back in September 2014 before going on to win that year's championship title. It shows just how difficult it is to dominate in this championship. It's certainly been the case so far in the 2018 season. It's still wide open at the top of the championship table. We've had the wins split by these drivers at the top of the table, 7 different drivers taking the race victories. The one driver who hasn't yet recorded a race victory, safety car in this lap, that's in the top 6 in the championship is Lorenzo Colombo. He's up second, he's up 2/3, but he's yet to take a race win, but he's been bagging the points pretty consistently as well. Top 6 finishes in each of the last 3 races. So Ifia will start to get ready for the restart. Over the last 2 weekends at the Red Bull Ring and Spa, he scored 47 points compared to Christian Lundgaard, who scored 54. So that gap in the top of the championship has been coming down as we get ready for the restart. And still just over 20 minutes remain on the clock. Christian Lundgaard is not close enough to attack for the lead. He might be slightly worried about Max Futrell just behind him in 3rd. They might be running in similar liveries, but those two are in different teams, and there is every man for himself for this championship. Another lock-up for Christian Lundgaard. Superb lap from him qualifying. And as he said this morning, it was a big relief because he was getting a bit annoyed by the fact that he hadn't yet got an overall pole position. It finally came, but it's winning the race that's the important thing to do. He certainly wasn't getting carried away. He knew there was still a long way to go this weekend. There was a bit of a lock-up there from the number 2 car of Logan Sargent as well, as he made his way down the hill onto this back straight. Is this super quick left-hander they go now, 5th gear for this one, 1.6G they pulled through that left-hander, in then to the right at around about 2G and 124 kilometres an hour through turn 5. Coming up the chicane is one to watch. The GT cars around here thump the curbs, but that second curb you've got to be very careful. The GT cars go all the way over it, but the Formula Renault cars can clip the edge of it, but if they go all the way over it, it's very damaging to potentially the underside of the car and to the front wings on these cars as well. So they take a lot of curb on the way in, but the second part of that chicane, having to be very, very careful. There is the number 41 car in 8th place, Oscar Piastri. Starting to home in now on Axel Mathieu's, the Mexican driver. He's pulled away on the restart from Charles Milesi in the number 3 RSGP car. There is Frank Bird and Arthur Rougier, and right behind the pair of them then you've got Alex Perrone in there, 12th, 13th and 14th respectively. There is Arthur Rougier, who had a difficult start to the season, having gone great guns in the French Formula 4 Championship last year, and picked up the Renault Sport backing, but he's starting to come good now. Had that very good 4th place finish at Spa. He followed that with a 6th place finish, so his best weekend by a long stretch last time out, and he's fighting for the points once again. Frank Bird hovering on the inside line here, not really showing his nose, more trying to defend his position from the yellow and black machine of Arthur Rougier. They'll do that successfully as they charge downhill now through towards turns 2 and 3. Big lock-up from Maxwell just in front of them. Australians butt-marking this battle here because you've got the green and white car, JD Motorsports, that run car of Thomas Maxwell at the heads of this little train that's going on. And then the number 2 car in 5th place, the blue and white car of Logan Sargent, still running well. 5th place, 0.6 of a second at the start line over Victor Martins. 1 or 2 cars running wide all over the curves here. You have to be so accurate. A lot of the drivers I spoke to this morning said they really enjoy this circuit. It's a good challenge. It's the sort of circuit where if you mess one corner up, with all corners flowing straight into one another, it can mess a whole sector up for you very easily. You can lose a lot of time over 3 or 4 corners. But if you get it right, it's a very, very rewarding circuit. This is the cars fire their way through. We've still just lost that 1 car, Thomas Neubauer, the French driver. So 27 cars still remain in the race. In terms of the NEC competition, who are fighting for separate championship points in this one, it's the driver second in the championship, German driver Durid Gattas, that's leading that group. He's in 20th place. Phil Hill, who is the points leader, is in 25th, so there's quite a big gap between those two. And then you've also got in there Gabriel Gandulia, who's a few places further back in 27th position. Over the line they come to complete another lap. The last lap was the fastest lap for Ifier. It's quicker than anybody in sector 1, quicker than anybody in sector 2. 1 minute 43.177 seconds. So Ifier, the race leader, setting the fastest lap of the race, is now just over a second clear of Christian Lundgaard. This is going to be that leery moment. It was, looking at the colour scheme, Sami Taufik, Moroccan driver who ran wide all over the curbs, and this is turn 1. Najib Razak, the Malaysian driver, has had an off and has lost a bit of bodywork as well. He crossed the line quite a long way down the order in 24th position, having already lost a couple of, in fact he was 22nd, he's lost a couple of places further still with that off, but he gets going again and he may be okay. And this is a replay of exactly what happened. He came under attack from Phil Hill, who I was just talking about, and there was the damage. Phil Hill was taking some damage to his front wing end plate as well, and fairly well nerfed out of the way there was Razak. So the Malaysian driver has been pushed way down the order and lost a lot of time as he got back underway there. Another purple through sector 2 for the race leader, Ifier, who was fastest in his group this morning, so that's why he's second on the grid. He topped his times. He was out in the first group this morning. Which group you're in for the first qualifying session of the weekend depends where you are in the championship. Odd-numbered positions in the championship are grouped together, even-numbered second, so if you're first or third or fifth in the championship, you bunch together. And usually one group naturally has a quicker racetrack than the other. It was really, really blustery this morning for qualifying as well. The track, the air temperature felt like it would be very similar, but with more and more rubber going down, it was the second group that was quite a bit quicker in the end. So if you're doing the best he could, he'll get the chance tomorrow though to get pole position, because the groups will be reversed. They'll run in the other order. Raul Guzman coming into the pits, I'm afraid, with a problem. A driver that has shown on a number of occasions this year is capable of running well up there in the points in the top 10. But looks like he's got a technical gremlin, so he's going to tumble down the order. So another fastest lap of the race last time around for the race leader. He's got the gap out to 1.2 seconds now. That lap was a 1:43.044. But Christian Lundgaard is going quickly as well. In fact, most of the drivers in the top 10 have got a sweet spot with the Michelin tyres now. Nearly all setting green sector times and green lap times on the timing screen, which means personal bests. So Lundgaard was a couple of tenths slower, 1:43.29, but it was still his fastest lap of the race so far. He was half a second quicker than Futrell as well, so they see the gap has really grown now. Number 1, Max Futrell, the green mirrors on the car, losing a lot of time, still about 2 tenths clear of Victor Martins in 4th place, so looking safe for a podium for the time being at least. As I say, he's the driver of the last 2 weekends that scored more points than everybody around him in the championship. Even they had quite a tough time of it with the car and the handling in those hot conditions. It's Neil Verhagen running wide in the Red Bull liveried car, the number 21 machine, but he gets it back onto the circuit. Neil, as I say, got his maiden podium here with a 3rd place finish at the Hungaroring last year, but he's currently down in 15th place and really struggling. Martinez and Taufik just behind him in 16th and 17th positions. The race leader goes past the commentary box here. a little bit cloudy, a little bit overcast at this stage of the day, but much better conditions than it might have been with that huge amount of rain we had during the lunch break. Still just under 13 minutes of the race to go. Through sector 2, Christian Lundgaard is quicker than the race leader. He's done it a couple of times now, but overall he can't quite get the gap down, and it's another fastest lap for Yifei. How about this for consistency? His last 2 laps, 1:43.044, 1:43.043, within a thousandth of a second his last 2 laps. There's a wide moment there for Frank Bird, and that was the wide moment for Neil Verhagen, who's just behind that battle. Didn't lose too much time. Got to be careful when you get back onto the circuit. You don't damage the underside of the car, though. But the American driver survives, but he's no nearer a top 10 finish in this one. Damage limitation, really. See what he can get out of it. Top 2 go through. There's 3rd, there's 4th, there's Sargent in 5th, Colombo in 6th. Still going well in 7th place. Axel Mathieu's looking for his best results so far, but I reckon Piastri is closing the gap. Let's have a look. 1:43.7 versus 1:43.9. So last time around, actually the gap grew on this lap. It might come down there, but Mathieu is doing a solid job. He almost picked up the top 10 finish in one of the races at the Red Bull Ring a couple of meetings ago, until really late on when Frank Bird was able to get past him. He defended a train of about 5 cars for most of the race. But this new setup, this new car, seems to be suiting him well. It's good to see the Mexican going well. We've had one Mexican out of the race with the retirement of Raul Guzman, but the other going very well, Axel Mathieu. Their dominating proceedings is Yifei 1.5 seconds clear now, albeit we're still getting good 2nd and 3rd sector times from Lundgaard. So it's the first sector where Yifei is pulling clear. The first few corners of the lap, he's a couple of tenths quicker than Lundgaard. Lundgaard is quicker through sector 2 and sector 3, so the middle of the lap and the end of the lap, but it's only by a few hundredths of a second. And another fastest lap, therefore, the 4th on the trot, I think that is, goes to Yifei with a 1:42.927, but he was only 1,000th of a second quicker than his championship rival on that lap. A few Trell and Martins going through. Colombo still trying to close down the gap to the American Logan Sargent for 5th place. There they are, the 2 white cars. Lorenzo Colombo, the JD Motorsport squad, who have won more championships as a team with their drivers than anybody else in the Formula Renault Eurocup. Had some time away from this championship. They've come back, but a lot of their championship titles came quite a while ago now, and it was, as I say, their first podium for some years when at Monza, Lorenzo Colombo took his car to an excellent 3rd place and 2nd place, finishing the 2 races there. Been very consistent this year as well. Only 2 races where he hasn't been in the points, Lorenzo Colombo. And bearing in mind he's a complete rookie to the Formula Renault Eurocup, and these are not the easiest cars to drive. Very, very twitchy on the back end, and take a bit of getting used to. I think he's proven himself to be a natural talent in his 2nd year at this level. If he comes back for 2019, whatever guys his championship takes, I think he will be one to watch. Maybe just a bit too far back points-wise to really challenge for the title this year. But you can see him getting up maybe into the top 3, definitely into the top 5 if he keeps this run of form going. There he comes. There's Axel Mathieu. Oscar Piastri has now caught up to the back of him, so that's the battle going through shot for 7th place. Axel Mathieu's fighting hard for his best results and for the AVF's team's best result so far as well. Side-by-side for 5th, and in the background they were going side-by-side as well. And look at this move from Oscar Piastri, trying to go around the outside here, or give him the inside line for the right-hander coming up. He uses all of the track, he clips the curbs, and he goes through. Terrific move that from Oscar Piastri. He did a very similar move to get up into 8th position ahead of Charmelese, and he's gained another move there. It's all really about the exit speed from turn 1. So you can see how he's already rocketed clear. So Piastri already 2 or 3 lengths clear. Part of that was the fact that Axel Mathieu is having to get out of his way, but he's still on for his best result so far, if he can hang on to it. It's been a vast improvement here. And a replay of that move. Absolutely went for it, locked up the brakes around the outside, but he knew he'd have the position into the next turn. In fairness, Axel Mathieu gave him enough room, and it was good fair driving from the pair of them. Terrific move that from Oscar Piastri, who's getting more and more confident as it goes on. Still, this will be the first points finish for Axel Mathieu. His 11th place, that's 11th place and nearly 10th place finish that he got at the Red Bull Ring, his best so far. Other than that, he sort of hovered around 14th, 15th, 16th places in the races or worse for the first half of the season. So very good drive this from Axel Juice, but he's lost that place to Oscar Piastri. Logan Sargent in the number 2 car. We saw Lorenzo Colombo getting very close to him half a lap ago as well, but he's just edged away on the second half of the lap. He's got about a 1.5 car length advantage, so through they go. Still dropping back all the time from the 2 ahead of them. And is that Arthur Rougier? Yep, Arthur Rougier we have lost. And that is most of the way around the lap at turn 12, just in the final sector. So poor old Arthur Rougier had a terrific weekend at Spa. A bad start to the weekend here at the Hungaroring, so he drops out. So he leads by 1.4 seconds. Last lap between the top 2, 1:42.9 versus a 1:43.0. So the gap has really stabilised around the 1.4, 1.5 second mark. Max Futrell has done his best lap of the race so far. Just now, 1:43.4 though, is still 4/10 slower than the top 2. Slightly being caught with a 1:43.3 by Victor Martins. Incident being investigated after the race between Vladimir Tsurtsis, number 84, and Raul Guzman, number 85. That was at turn 6, and we saw Raul Guzman retiring, so maybe it was a result of some contact that has caused Raul to retire from the race. Shot there of a disconsolate Arthur Rougier looking on as a spectator for the rest of this race as the marshals push his car to safety, but he wasn't running in the points anyway. So a bad day for him as we watched the number 61 car of Lorenzo Colombo. These 2-litre powered Formula Renault cars, very rapid around here. And the brakes so late into turn 1. I was watching qualifying down the grandstands overlooking turn 1 this morning. You'll see maybe a 100-metre board on the near side, and then the curbs, which start 75 metres from the corner, and it's not till they get to those curbs that they brake. So that's where they brake, and it's downhill as well. It's a tricky entry into turn 1, and these cars brake and deaccelerate so impressively. So it's not just about the acceleration and the top speed of these cars, it is also about how they handle and the brakes and the efficiency of the brakes on these cars. Top speed around here will be 230 kilometers an hour. Actually full throttle for 67% of the lap around here, even though it's a relatively tight and twisty circuit this. Fastest third sector of the last lap went to Oscar Piastri, and he's just set the fastest first sector of anybody so far in this race. So having been released, having got through some of the traffic, Oscar Piastri is flying now. He's just done a 37.4 through the first sector. That was a 1/10 of a second quicker even than the race leader. So Piastri in 7th place, 1.3 seconds behind Lorenzo Colombo, who in turn is only just behind Logan Sargent. So it might be worth keeping an eye to the number 41 Arden car, because if he can keep that sort of pace up, he might yet be able to catch a couple more cars and maybe get himself some more points in the closing 5 minutes of the race. Logan Sargent, they're doing a good job. This is one of his teammates at RHGP. Charles Melezi was in 9th place. Alexander Smoliar is a couple of lengths behind him in the final point scoring position in 10th place. And then just outside the points is Thomas Maxwell, who's been in the points in nearly every race so far this year, but he's just outside in 11th place at the moment on the throttle of this 210 brake horsepower car. It's basically a souped up Clio engine they use, 2-litre Clio engine. So the road engine being adapted for racing, 7-speed sequential gearbox, and the Tatius chassis they use, which was first brought into the championship Formula Renault Eurocup 5 years ago in 2013. There's a battle for 11th place between the Australian Thomas Maxwell and the British driver Frank Bird as they go through. And then the other Australian, Alex Peroni, just behind in 13th place currently. And then Neil Verhagen, who we saw having a wide Leary moment 4 or 5 laps ago, is the next car in line, running in 14th place from Alicia Martinez, who rounds out the top 15. Sami Taufik, the Moroccan driver, at 16th. The 91 car still leading the NEC side of the grid. Duret Gattas currently running in 19th place in the 91 car. Phil Hill is 23rd. And second in that group, Gabriel Gandulia is just 1 place behind him now in 24th position. There's Max Futrell, who's edged away now from the number 4 car of Victor Martins. There's Sargent, there's Colombo, and there is Oscar Piastri, and he's really flying after them, isn't he, in the number 41 car. He's just set his personal best lap, 1:42.8. That was 3/4 of a second quicker than Sargent and Colombo, so going to be with them soon. Colombo, who's been not really on the attack because he hasn't, only maybe once or twice in this race, looked like he might have a go to try and find a way past Logan Sargent for 5th place, but he's certainly been looking forwards more than he's been looking backwards. Now though, he might have to start for once looking in the mirrors, because Oscar Piastri has absolutely nailed that gap down. He was 3.5 seconds behind about 3 laps ago, and he's right with them now, so charging along and looking to pick up some more positions here, Oscar Piastri, and get another, maybe, very strong top 6 finish. He's 7th at the moment. The Australian drivers all together in the championship. Pironi's 8th, Piastri's 9th, and Maxwell in 10th place in the points. And Oscar Piastri, I don't think, well, he might, if he gets enough points, he might move ahead of Alex Pironi for 8th place in the championship. Depends where he finishes up here. But having done all the hard work and caught up to Lorenzo Colombo, he's now got to try and find a way through. Another incident to be investigated after the race, the second to be investigated with the Russian driver Vladimir Tsortsis, the Fortec driver. This time it's an incident that he had with Christian Munoz, the Colombian, so he'll be not necessarily penalised, but they're looking at a couple of incidents now. Those cars further down the field. There they go, running through the chicane at turns 6 and 7, through the left at 8, through the right at 9. Fast flowing corners now, easily flat out through the left-hand kink at turn 10 in 5th gear. And then just a lift for the right-hander at turn 11, 171 kilometres an hour through there, down the back straight and into the twisty section at the end of the lap for the final sector. Over the brow they come, down towards the right-hander at turn 12. Almost immediately followed by the left at 13, and turn 14, the right-hander, which you've got to get absolutely right, because the long run down the start-finish line then takes your entry speed into turn 1, into the closing stages. Minute 20 seconds left on the clock in this race. The gap between the top 2 has come down a bit, as you can see, 1.1 seconds. It was 1.4 seconds. So Christian Lundgaard is still not giving up on his aspirations of a race victory here, and he'll be even more spurred on and motivated by the fact that the only driver ahead of him in this race is the only driver ahead of him in the championship table so far. He says it's only 10 points. I have not given up yet. It's nothing really, 10 points. And as I say, Lundgaard, over the last couple of meetings, has been closing that gap to Ifia. He's also been super consistent this year, and he once as if he not finished in the points this year. And he did actually finish in the points in that race, but was later penalised because of his contact with Max Futrell in the second race at Monza, back towards the start of the season. But actually, he's the only driver to have a 100% finish record in the races so far this year. And the Chinese driver looks the real deal. He's a lovely chap as well when you speak to him, and highly thought of by Lars Kaufmann and the team at Joseph Kaufmann Racing. They know they're very much in the box seat for the championship, but Christian Lundgaard, what a force, what a talent he is proving to be. His first season at this hugely competitive level, the rookie could still win this championship. Only 10 points adrift, with all these points still available. 4 weekends to go, including this one, so still 200 points left up for grabs. So the clock has ticked down, 30 minutes done, 30 minutes plus 1 lap, so there'll be 1 more lap to go. Ifia 1.1 seconds became 0.65 seconds at the end of the previous lap. So closing all the time as they come through turn 14 is Christian Lundgaard. He's got the bit between his teeth. He's very quick relative to the Chinese driver at the end of the race. Onto the final lap of the race they go, and the gap is 0.79 seconds. If he actually responded by a tenth or so through that final sector, you can see they're pushing each other on. They can see Max Futrell has left for dead now, the 4th place car of Victor Martins, and then 5th, 6th, 7th in your picture at the moment, Logan Sargent, Lorenzo Colombo and Oscar Piastri. Can he do anything about them? He caught them up a couple of laps ago. He hasn't really closed up now. Maybe he's just used his tyres up in that charge through the field, or charge through the top 10 that he was able to put together. But this will still be one of his best results of the season. He had that podium at Spa, he had a 6th place in the Red Bull Ring, he had a 5th place early on in the season at the Castellet, at the Paul Ricard circuit. But this 7th will be one of his best finishes so far this season. There's the battle for the leader of the race. The final lap through the first sector, 37.5 for the leader, 37.8 for Lundgaard. So Ifia has controlled the pace, and as soon as the threat came, he's responded. He responded at the end of the previous lap, and he's really responded at the start of this lap. 0.3 quicker through the first sector alone. So Christian Lundgaard is, having been 0.6 of a second behind, he's more like 0.8 of a second behind now. And it was worth keeping the Chinese driver honest just in case it forced him into a mistake, forced him to go faster than they wanted to. Lundgaard giving it absolutely everything here. It's Dan Henrik Lundgaard, former European rallycross star, cheering his son on, no doubt, but it's going to be a second place finish because that checkered flag is being unfurled. And the FIA is going to pick up his first win since the second weekend of the season at Monza. What a time to do it. He takes the checkered flag and extends his championship lead here in the opening race of the weekend at the Hungaroring. Christian Lundgaard in second place, Max Futrell the best he could do in third place, Victor Martins fourth, Logan Sargent in fifth, Lorenzo Colombo was sixth, Oscar Piastri with a really good drive seventh, wasn't able to pick off any more positions towards the end of the race. And then Mathius gets his first points of the season. Well done, Axel Mathius. 8th place, 9th place, Charles Milesi, 10th place, Alexander Smoliar. And we saw them all together just behind the top 10, crossing the line there with Thomas Maxwell 11th, Frank Bird 12th, and then Alex Peroni was 13th, 14th and 15th, Neil Verhagen and Eliseo Martinez. They're still crossing the line, fairly spread out from where the leaders were. The gap from 1st to 10th in the end was 17 seconds. You had a safety car a third of the way through the race as well. FIA picks up his second race win of the season. Max Futrell is still the only driver with 3 wins this year, but now you've got Iffy, Christian Lundgaard, Victor Martins and Charles Milesi, 4 drivers that have had 2 race wins apiece. So they're the provisional results on the screen. And after 18 laps of racing, it was 1.076 seconds in the end, but controlling the pace, FIA takes his second win of the season. Christian Lundgaard and Max Futrell will join him on the podium. Lundgaard also the rookie winner in second place overall. Victor Martins fourth, was the second best rookie, and third best rookie in 5th place, Logan Sargent. Colombo 6th, Piastri, Mathius, Milesi, Smoliar round out the points. Thomas Maxwell was 11th and Frank Bird in 12th place. Alex Peroni's frustrations continue. There he is in 13th. Neil Verhagen will be disappointed with 14th as well, no doubt. Eliseo Martinez 15th, and he's another driver coming into car racing for the first time this season, former Spanish karting champion, doing a good job there in 15th. Sami Taufik in 16th, and on his debut, Freek Stotthurst in 17th place. So almost in the middle of the field there for a driver that's barely done any real-life car racing, coming from this sim racing background. Good effort there. Clement Novalak on his return as well after missing Spa through injury, and one of the races at the Red Bull Ring was a finisher just behind in 18th place. And the victory in the NEC category, 20th place going to the German driver, second in the points at the moment, Durad Gattas, with Phil Hill 21st in the end, 2.7 seconds behind him, and third in that category, Gabriel Gandulia. So there is Christian Lundgaard, who at least wins the race back to the pits. And there is your race winner for the Joseph Kaufmann team. It's been a long wait, but he's not been without success since that previous race victory in only the 3rd race of the season. This is the 13th race of the season as we look at highlights now, and it was all about the start really, because he wasn't on pole, he was second, but by the time they got to turn 1, if he had got the lead of the race, smoking the tyres was Christian Lundgaard. A good start from Max Futrell, who had to fend off Victor Martins for 3rd place. There were lockups through turns 2 and 3 for the likes of Frank Bird, as well as he tried to fight his way up into the points. He ultimately didn't quite get there. Others ran wide over the curbs. We lost Thomas Neubauer fairly early on in the race. That would bring out the safety car, and that was as if he had produced a 1.3 second advantage. Others slid through the turns. Sami Taufik having a moment there, and there was this contact as well, with Najir Razak coming off worst in that collision with Phil Hill. A moment running wide for Neil Verhagen. This terrific move from Oscar Piastri as he squeezed around the outside of Axel Mathius to get a very strong 7th place. So we're going to round out the show with these highlights. Don't forget, we've got race 2 coming up tomorrow, another qualifying session tomorrow as well. But for the championship lead, the FIA has extended his points lead now to 17. From me, Chris Hartley, and the team here at the Hungaroring, thanks for watching.